Greetings and salutations, viewers and listeners. Welcome to episode 96 of Word Ninjas Live. I am Charles, your leader of I don't even know what tonight.
You're leader
But
of the plague.
yeah, I'm coming to you tonight with Will and Calvin.
Hello.
I have no idea where the others wandered off to, but we're going to have a show without them. Because we have things to talk about. And news pieces to highlight and other such things. But starting things off are some talkie points, one of which was submitted last week. The main point of the question was what sort of language and content is appropriate in an R or M rated story? And that is relatively tricky, especially for stories, I feel like, because they don't really have the rating systems that movies or video games or other such content have. But based off of those types of rating systems, like if you're rated R or rated M, then it has some pretty mature content that children and middle-aged teenagers probably shouldn't be interacting with unless you're ready to discuss some of those heavy topics with them.
I just thought of something interesting for that. For movies, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's been pointed out that, and this is sexual in nature, but if a movie contains a male character having an orgasm, it's okay to be rated M. But if a woman has an orgasm, then it gets bumped up to the next level up. Or R, I guess, is the movie rating.
There's R and then there's NC-17.
Yeah, I think NC-17 is what it gets bumped up to. But I think that's more into a question of gender non-equality in movies. So,
which is still a thing.
But not this talkie point.
Yeah.
That's some for another day.
It is tricky with books because, as far as I've seen, outside of manga, books don't really have a rating at all.
I mean,
as long as it's not in the adult section.
Yeah. I mean, there is somewhat of an age rating, as it were, as you have young adult, middle age, or I forget what the rankings are. My brain isn't really working at 100% today. But there's no actual rating system on books, which in some ways is probably a good thing, considering just how many books are not banned, but consistently challenged by some unnecessarily cranky critics sometimes.
You already had that podcast.
Yeah. Some books, the back cover would be nothing but the rating systems just to fill in all the various bits that that book contains.
You wouldn't want to see the rating list for My Roommate's a Stripper.
Everything.
Need a separately enclosed pamphlet. It was interesting given the example used by the viewer who submitted about how the series version was worse off than the original version. Which I think is, again, another interesting topic already of how, especially with things like manga and whatnot, when they become a series, they change things and why. But it might also come down to... Sorry. It might just come down to that manga and anime are on different rating systems. So what flies in the manga as, or I should say, what is unacceptable for the manga that would bump the rating up in the manga might not bump it up in the anime just because it's a different rating board.
I could see that. There is a fair amount of stuff in manga that doesn't make it into anime. At least from some of the various manga that I read.
Mm. And I know, like, just comparing the two big ones, the movie and the video game ones, I think the video game one is stricter than the movie one is.
For the rating systems?
Yeah. It's easier to get bumped up. Like, I think, like, a movie, I've seen movies rated PG-13 that have women with, like, their breasts out as long as it's only for a couple seconds, and it's not sexually. But in any video game, I think if a breast is fully exposed on a woman for more than a few seconds, it's instantly bumped up to adults only, which for video games is basically a death for sales, because almost no markets will sell adult-only games. You'd pretty much be stuck selling your game online only. Some places won't even sell M games.
Yeah. I actually brought up some of those rating systems just so I could look at them. For video games, M would constitute content as generally suitable for ages 17 and up. May contain intense violence, blood and gore, sexual content, and or strong language.
Essentially the movie NC-17.
Yeah.
So I think the content more accurately goes with the movie R.
And I can't think of a single video game that I've seen at a store that had the adults only rating.
You won't.
Yeah.
No one will sell it. It's considered a death rating in the video game industry if you get AO. Because
content suitable only for adults age 18 and up may include prolonged scenes of intense violence, graphic sexual content, and or gambling with real currency.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
You will never find it because no retailer will sell it. You won't find it at GameStop, you won't find it at Walmart, you won't find it on Steam. Mostly because most games, I think the stigma is if it has AO, it's pornographic. Even though a lot of games that have an M rating for violence in earlier versions had AO ratings and they had to censor parts out. Or I think it actually relates to the number of deaths in game, the number of enemies killed or something like that. If it exceeds a certain amount, then it jumps up to AO. Something really arbitrary like that.
Quirky.
The only game with an AO rating that I remember that was popular was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but that was because of a technicality.
Yeah.
Oh, the hot coffee mod. That wasn't even supposed to see the light of day, but somebody managed to hack the code and bring it out.
Oops. I do have to question, why did they put it in there then?
For the lulz?
I guess. The thing is, there are games that have like sex scenes like that in them, but because the characters are dressed and it's done in a quirky way. I've actually seen a video of like a countdown of the worst sex scenes in video games, and there are a couple that are just like, oh, it just looks like a bunch of animated Barbie and Ken dolls humping each other with their clothes on. I think Road to Retribution had one of the worst. That game was bad all around. But they get away with just the M rating.
Yeah, didn't the God of War series have like nude scenes or like simulated sex scenes?
I don't know. Um,
Supposedly, yes.
yeah. I mean, there's quirks, there's ways around it, things like that. The Witcher had sex scenes in it, which were very much they were pretty intense, but it's all about how it's acted and how long it lasts. And like I said, it's really arbitrary. There's a lot of rulings and technicalities and things like that. It's all very quirky, and I don't even think half the people that work at the organizations that rate these things fully understand the rules, because it also depends on, you know, who's rating it, how desensitized they are, and how they're feeling that day.
Mm.
That reminds me of the story that Trey Parker and Matt Stone told about them getting around all the rating, all the MPAA ratings for South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Hmm.
The MPAA ultimately made that movie worse than it originally was supposed to be because of all the workarounds that Trey and Matt had to use to get the MPAA's thumbs up and keep the movie from getting an NC-17 rating.
Hmm. I've actually heard that there's a trick in the movie making industry to kind of deceive the rating company. If there's a scene in your movie that will bump it up to NC-17, but you want to keep it in the movie, what you do is you make a scene that's not supposed to be in your movie that's even worse, but make it seem like it's supposed to be in the movie, and then you send it to the ratings board, and because that other scene is so much worse, they'll be desensitized to the scene they want to keep. And as long as you cut the scene that you put in there as a trap, the rating board will give you the okay.
Sneaky.
Because
I've
you've
I've heard
you've basically desensitized them. I heard they did that for what was that one? The one with Seth Seth
Ted.
what?
It wasn't Ted, was it?
No, not Ted.
A Thousand Ways to Die in the West.
No. Seth Rogen.
Oh, Seth Rogen.
The one where it was the end of the world.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
There were scenes they wanted to keep in, but they were afraid the rating board would say if you keep these in, your movie is NC-17. So they made a fake scene that went on for like 5 minutes straight where they showed the devil completely naked and erect. Because they knew that would never pass, and it was way worse than the scenes they wanted to keep. So they showed that to the ratings board, and the ratings board said, just cut that out, and you're fine. So all they had to do was cut that out, and they never intended to keep it anyway.
So what you're telling me is devil boners are kryptonite to the MPAA.
Yeah.
I think to most rating companies.
But those are ways that you can deceive these rating boards to get whatever ratings you want. So what we might think fits into M and R might, it might be true. You're watching an M-rated movie and something in there is like, that's not M-rated, that should be NC-17. Maybe, but maybe the producers and directors were sneaky.
Mm.
So it's hard to really judge.
This Is the End was the name of the movie.
That one. Yeah.
I find it somewhat amusing that apparently for television, the MA rating used to be TVM, but then they got in a trademark dispute with the ESRB because of the whole M for mature rating. So they had to turn it into TVMA.
Wait a minute. they got into a trademark dispute over a rating for the same level of content.
Yep.
Why is that trademark? Are they making money off of the M rating?
I
Because
don't
of
know.
America, that's why.
And they do have a whole list. It was a Wikipedia link, but they had a whole list of television series that were rated MA. Some of them I can kind of understand. I'm somewhat amused that 12 Ounce Mouse is on there.
I'm not.
Really?
Apparently, the Boondocks made the list.
I want to point out 12 Ounce Mouse, only some episodes.
Some episodes, there is no rating for them because no one knows what's going on.
Let's see, Boondocks I can understand.
Mm.
They made it a point to offend everybody.
Afro Samurai I get because it was very violent. There was a lot of blood in Afro Samurai.
I'm kind of amazed that Torchwood only made it on there for 2 episodes. And chances are it was only because of gay sex. Robot Chicken, most episodes.
Interesting. Cowboy Bebop. Some episodes on Adult Swim, the 2015 uncensored airing. However, all episodes are rated TV-14 on Funimation.
Odd.
Probably not so much the violence more than it was the cursing.
Maybe. I know they didn't. Well, they just did an HD remake of the series, so they just kind of cleaned it up. They didn't really remake it.
Mm.
And it's no surprise that Moral Oral is on there.
Oh, interesting. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is also on there. 3 episodes when aired on Adult Swim.
I wonder which ones.
I could think of a couple that were bloody and gory enough and questionable enough. Ghost in the Shell is on there. Standalone Complex, the uncensored version on Hulu, and some episodes of Second Gig on Adult Swim. See, that's interesting. It's like just certain parts.
I can understand why Happy Tree Friends is on this list. Not to mention Hellsing and Hellsing Ultimate.
Hetalia is on this list.
I'm kind of curious as to why, because there could be some various reasons, but I'm not quite sure which ones they chose.
But you look through this list, and it's like some of them you're definitely looking through and like, why? Just why? What was it that pushed it over the edge? There's so many different things that offend so many different people. If you talk about certain hot button topics too in depth, you can get an M rating. Even if it's something like gun control or abortion or anything like that.
I mean, the wiki article just said for TVMA, this program is specifically designed to be viewed by adults and therefore may be unsuitable for children under 17. That's not very specific or helpful.
Yeah, it's vague. Even if it's just, like I said, if there's a legitimate in-depth discussion about abortion in an episode, some people might be like, oh, that's for adults only. TVMA. I saw CSI on the list. I bet any episodes that involved the death or murder of a child was very highly considered, if not rated TVMA, just because it's a child dying instead of an adult. And these rating systems are all very confusing. There was a time in the video game industry, I even have a couple older cassettes over here that have it. There was a rating K to A.
The heck is that?
Kids to adults.
Oh.
It was considered too confusing and replaced by the E for everything rating. or E for everyone.
Huh.
I have a copy right here of my old Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64, rated K to A.
Yeah, I remember the K rating.
Kids to adults. And that was replaced by E for everyone. So it's all just like, it's hard to say what's appropriate and what's not appropriate because sometimes it's just really arbitrary.
It's probably really just going to boil down to what format is it going to be in and who's going to need to review it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, mileage will always, no matter what, vary depending on who rates it, what organization rates it, where it's going.
How cranky the rating person is that day.
Mm.
And if the producer was sneaky. I think I mentioned it on the show before, there was a game that came out years ago. I think it was called Y, just the letter Y. And it should have gotten like an NC-17 equivalent rating, but they made a dumbed down version and sent it to the ESRB rating board like the day before the game was due. So they got the M rating, or the lesser rating, based off of the fake copy they sent the ESRB, and then shipped out the actual copy like next day. And it was so close together that there was nothing the ESRB could do at the time.
I feel like you could get fined for doing that now or something.
Probably. I think your game just gets pulled,
Hmm.
like what happened with San Andreas.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure when that happened, it just got pulled, and Rockstar was like, "Holy, oh noes, expletive deleted."
Let's see, what happened with that? I know they definitely got hit with the AO rating.
hmm And when
Presumably they just re-released it with more suitable content or restrictions on it so that they could actually get it out there.
they probably removed that bit of code,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody got fired.
Was that at a point where they could just send a software patch to people, or was it a whole new...
That was
Yes,
Xbox
so-
360 era.
San Andreas? No, I think it was before that.
Was it Xbox, original Xbox?
San Andreas might have been original Xbox.
If it was original
PS2
Xbox,
era.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was a little while ago now.
Yeah,
That was 2004, so...
probably original Xbox then. Yeah, the 360 wasn't out yet. So, I don't know. I think what they did was that they pulled... I know the copies got pulled because a lot of the places selling it were like, oh no, we can't sell an AO game.
Hmm.
So they just pulled it off the shelves and sent it back, and I think Rockstar probably just... I think they did a recall, which obviously anyone who owned the game probably kept the version that they had. And then all future versions they released were fixed so that you could not access that part, I would imagine.
Yeah, I know I have the game on Steam, but I haven't really played around with it much.
Oh, I'm sure it doesn't have it. If it's on Steam, they can easily fix it at any point in time.
Yeah, I'm sure they've patched it by now. I would hope.
What some intrepid soul probably yanked the code somewhere and has it somewhere online that you can patch it into
Probably.
Meh.
on your Steam version.
As long as you keep your Steam offline, because I bet if you put it online, it probably fixes it.
I already have too many other games I need to play. And finish.
Another one. Curse you, Steam sale.
I've been surprisingly good about the Steam sale. I've only bought 3 games.
I have not, because they keep tossing some of the games that I want over 75%, and that was my limit. If it's 75% or over, then sure, fine, it's worth it. But they keep doing it.
Let's see. Actually, technically, when I grabbed Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, that was before the Steam sale started. They were just on sale on their own.
Probably with the release of Fallout 4 being announced.
Yeah, it was right after the Fallout 4, the first trailer was released.
Mm.
But I grabbed DLC for BioShock 2 today, which I'll be recording shortly. BioShock 2. After I finish Don't Starve. I'll probably go until I die. My track record means it'll be a few days into summer.
There's a few games on my wish list, but the prices for those didn't drop enough for me to have enough incentive to buy them, with the exception of one, Microsoft Flight Simulator X. I mean, it's $5 right now. I don't know why I haven't bought it already.
We see him suddenly clicking furiously.
Well, while he debates that, how about we move on to the next talkie point?
Sounds good. I think we've talked enough about rating systems. And right now it's dangerous to talk about Steam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons.
Alright, the next talkie point is, what are your methods or approaches to naming your characters? Now, as for myself, I just recycle like a dozen names until one of them finally sticks. Or until I finish a story, and then whatever names are in there, that's what these characters are, and then I don't use them elsewhere. But my backup go-to option is just go to Seventh Sanctum website, because they have every ridiculous name generator you could ever want and more. That's really pretty much it for me. I'm pretty straightforward with my character namings.
I'm pretty similar. Baby naming websites are where I go.
Same here.
Especially if I know, like if I have a character and I've decided what their heritage or country of origin is, assuming my world takes place on basically Earth or an Earth variant, where the countries are the same or similar, then I can look up specific names based on countries or regions, and I like to look at the etymology of the names and find something that seems appropriate, especially for last names. But first names works too. Otherwise, it's just baby naming websites.
I almost never play around with last names. They never seem to be overly relevant in my stories. Or maybe I'm just lazy about last names.
They're not necessarily 100% necessary.
Yeah, baby name websites and websites like those are a lot of fun, especially looking up like what Will said, etymology and like meanings behind names. Like you kind of learn a lot about like these like random first and last names. For either of you, is there a particular country of origin that you like in terms of names, first or last?
I seem to end up in the UK more often than not.
I've checked England. Ireland is fun. Celtic names.
Celtic names are fun.
I've also had, I mean, I've poked everywhere. I've looked at Hispanic names. from Central America, South America, and Spain. French names, Russian surnames. That one was interesting.
Greek names I found interesting, especially because of the amount of people that I knew that never knew had names of Greek origin.
Never played with Greek. Should also play with German names.
Yeah, there's plenty to pick from.
So, and Far East names, Chinese names, Japanese names. There's a lot of meaning behind names if you go out to Asia.
Of all the baby name sites and all that out there, do any of them have pronunciation guides for some of the surnames? Because I know that's tripped me up on various occasions.
Yes and no. Some have it. I don't really remember specific sites. I always just Google search
Yeah.
Celtic surnames, and then I go down through all the result links until I find a site that has the information I want.
Some of those sites do have pronunciations, but unfortunately they use the International Phonetic Alphabet to give set pronunciations, and the International Phonetic Alphabet is confusing.
Yeah, that's not overly helpful.
My dad can attest to that. When he was in school, way back when, he was part of an experimental program where they taught the children how to read and write using the phonetic alphabet.
That doesn't seem nice.
It wasn't nice when he moved on from elementary school to middle school where they didn't do that and said, "You don't know how to read and write. Go to remedial classes."
That just doesn't seem fair.
No, yeah. But that's what happened. Experimenting in the American school system. What could go wrong? Yeah, Google search is your friend most of the time. Depending on what you search for.
Well, names are one of those things where you probably don't need safe search on, or at least you're not going to have to be too worried about it.
Hope so.
Depending on what sort of names you're looking for, probably. Alright, shall we move on to the highlights reel for this week?
Sounds good.
I think we're ready for that.
Got a whole slew of stuff for this week. Let's move that over. Alright, first news piece is over on Inc. 7 skills you need to learn regardless of your profession. I'm not entirely sold on all 7. Surprise, surprise. But it was interesting to see what they came up with for things everyone should know. I mean, effective communication, yeah, sure, fine, fair enough. It is useful to be able to communicate effectively. Organization and management, also useful at times. Negotiation, you'd be surprised how useful that can be in real life, but it's easier said than done to be good at it. Critical thinking, everyone could use that from time to time. Teamwork and delegation, not everyone plays well in a team, so it would be useful to learn. Research and analysis, a lot of people don't do their due research or analyze what they have. I think that was the main one for the overlap that brought it into here for writing. Do your due research and analysis for when you're referencing stuff. especially in sci-fi, or if you're trying to bring scientific elements into fantasy. And confidence is not really so much a skill as a mindset, as I know Will said off air. So, while useful, I'm not quite sure how it fits on this list. But
At the very
overall,
least, I think that at the very least is something to be mindful of.
yeah.
And that's something that you don't really hone more than you build.
Mm.
Mm.
I mean, the effective communication can also be aligned with communicate your stories effectively so you can get your point across. If you muddle your words, then readers get confused. Organize and manage your notes and all that. Now it's finally beginning to come back to me because I didn't write down my notes of why these were important. Because why would I do that? But yeah, interesting little list. Next piece up is over on Quartz. There's a gender gap in prize-winning literature, not between the authors, but the characters, which caught my attention mainly because of the headline, and I was curious as to just what they meant from that. But they kind of boil it down into this little chart over here, about a third of the way down. Apparently, depending on who the author is and what types of characters they write about, some get a few more awards than others. Like, more than a few more awards than others. Although, it was interesting to see that the total awards by women was more than the total awards by men.
I also find it interesting that in the subcategories of by women about or by men about, the only place where men are winning is men are winning is when men write about men or boys, where they get more than women who write about men or boys. Otherwise, when women write about either women or about both, they get more awards and prizes than men.
Yeah, all three women's categories are more or less balanced. But with the men, if they write about women, girls, or both, they barely get anything.
I wonder if that's because a lot of the men writers have trouble writing about it, so they don't write stories that are worthy of the awards, or if they're just not writing a lot of stories about women or about both. If there's not many to choose from, there aren't going to be that many that are going to win awards.
Hmm. It is very interesting to see just how all that breaks down. So it's definitely a relatively quick little article worth reading if you have the time. And the other news piece is 7 surprisingly practical lessons from America's new poet laureate. And I'm not sure if they're overly surprising, but number 1, you can push yourself in surprising new directions. You can overcome shyness and become a bold voice. You don't need a formal degree to pursue your life's work. That one is definitely relevant. I don't know if it's overly surprising, but relevant. Outside interests and experiences are crucial for your work. That is practical. You should not expect to please everyone all the time. That's just reality. Always be creating. I have nothing to say against that, other than I wholeheartedly agree. And then don't stop at what you think is your masterpiece.
I can attest to that, especially with the work I've been doing with Infinity's Light.
Just get better and do better. There's always room to grow.
Yes. An interesting list from the latest Poet Laureate. Not quite sure how many are necessarily surprising, but some are definitely very practical and worth keeping in mind when you're doing your various creative endeavors. Next up are the latest story bundles, or book bundles. The one over on Story Bundle is the Dynamite Comic-Con bundle. So all the various Dynamite comics. And this one just started, so you have a whole month at the moment. 29 days, 3 hours, 47 minutes, blah blah blah, to snag this one. And it really is a full spread of series. You got Jungle Girl Omnibus, Season 1 and 2, Project Superpowers Chapter 2, issues 0 through 12. You have Vampirella Volume 1, issues 1 through 12, Red Sonja Omnibus Volume 2, Zorro Volume 1, issues 1 through 12, Miss Fury, issues 1 through 11, The Twilight Zone, issues 1 through 12. I didn't even know they were doing a new series of that. And if you pay over the minimum amount, you get the bonus set of Mercy Thompson, Alpha and Omega, Cry Wolf, issues 1 through 8, and Homecoming, issues 1 through 4. You also get Dean Koontz's Frankenstein, Prodigal Son, Volume 1, which is issues 1 through 5, and Volume 2, which is issues 1 through 5. Jim Butcher's Dresden Files, Welcome to the Jungle, issues 1 through 4, and Full Moon, Volume 1. You also get Blood Queen, issues 1 through 6, Blood Queen Annual, and Blood Queen vs. Dracula, issues 1 through 4. You get Damsels, issues 1 through 13, The Black Bat Omnibus, Dark Shadows, issues 1 through 9, and Sherlock Holmes, Trial of Sherlock Holmes, issues 1 through 5, and Moriarty Lives, issues 1 through 5. That's a pretty full set of graphic novels for you. And I'm going to guess it's probably 15 to get them all. Yeah, so if you do 14 or under, you get just the first 7 series. And if you pay 15 or more, you get all of them. And you get a whole month to make your decision. Overall, a good bundle, it looks like.
It's a pretty solid bundle, but I have too many books already.
Yeah, I still have a couple graphic bundles, or graphic novel bundles that I need to read through. So, I mean, there is a whole month, so if you whittle your to-be-read list down a bit, it's going to be there. And then over on Humble Bundle, they just tossed up a new one for the next 2 weeks, give or take, for learning, basically. You got Super Scratch Programming Adventure, the Lego Adventure Book, Volume 2, the Manga Guide to Databases, Wonderful Life with the Elements, The Art of Lego Design, No Starch Summer Sampler 2015. They're also tossing in Tux Paint, the app, just for fun. And if you pay the average price, which fluctuates but is currently $11.84, you would also get JavaScript for Kids, the unofficial LEGO Technic Builder's Guide, Learn to Program with Scratch, which looks to be some sort of very clever kitty. You would get the Arduino Workshop, the Linux command line, and I'm sure they'll toss more in over the next 2 weeks because they do that.
Those last two books would be perfect for me.
Well, you just got to pay $11.84 at the moment to get them. And if you tossed it up to $17 or more, you would also get the LEGO Mindstorms EV3 Discovery Book, Teach Your Kids to Code, and Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. It's a very interesting mix overall. And that's over on Humble Bundle for the next 2 weeks or so. Next piece we had up was very entertaining little narrative about the birth of the alphabet in a world of numbers, which is just very amusing and cute and entertaining and worth checking out. And then thought I'd toss in some language learning links just because they happened to come across my feed at the time. But apparently they now have language learning cubes, so you can kind of learn languages that way, which I feel is pretty clever. This one specifically is for Chinese. And granted, I kind of want to learn Japanese first, but it's an interesting product concept, and I'm curious how it could be adapted to other languages. Because, I mean, for Chinese, Japanese, Korean, all of those, you can fit the kanji onto a cube with relative ease. But if you're doing more of the Romanic and Germanic languages, not so much. Might get a little tricky. But hey, if you want to learn Chinese and make it entertaining, these might be of interest. And the last one, which caught my eye, was learning Japanese. But they were going to do it through cultural immersion. So actually giving you the relevance and context for a lot of the words and language and phrasings so you can better understand how it's used and why it's used. But this is something that's still in development. So I hope they actually get on this because it looks very interesting. And that one is from Lexi Candy. And it looks like they're going to be doing other languages as well in the future. So something I'm going to keep an eye on. It's just convenient that their first one is going to be Japanese, since that's the one I want to learn. And those are all the highlights for this week. All the links to that stuff is in the show notes. fcwriters.com under the Word Ninjas Live section, as always. And now, onwards to the Productivity and Inspiration Station segment thingy, what's it? As of last week, I managed to do a good 8 hours of recordings. I have 6 weeks worth of visual novels in the queue to be edited a bit. I still haven't finished either visual novel though. They just keep on going and getting weirder and more confusing and a little disconcerting for one of them. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out. But it's nice to kind of have a buffer so that I can focus on other things for a week or two. And granted, this has been a group effort, but the Word Ninjas 2.0 revamp is in full swing. We've managed to get a lot done in the last week alone. It's really more thanks to Will, but I kind of helped push things along, I hope. The one thing that has slowed me down considerably is I have managed to catch a doom plague of doomedness to the point where I have like almost 103-degree temperature today, which is why I'm not even remotely peppy. and I just want to go to sleep. But there is a show to be done, so here I am. Hey, how have things gone with Will since last week?
Busy. There was all the editing of all of the things. Excuse me. Yes, sorry. All of the editing of reviewing Word Ninjas and editing the podcast and getting the Not Suitable for Word Ninjas done, which was fun because the most recent Word Ninjas, which came out earlier this week, is actually some audio from Book Expo America.
Those were fun.
Yes. And it was interesting because I didn't get to go, so it was I got to hear those panels and actually get almost like I was actually there.
Yeah, there's nothing I could do about the background noise. Sorry about that.
It wasn't that bad, honestly. I was surprised. Especially for the panel, the writers workshop panel, not the tour panel. Everyone was very respectful. There was like no background noise. But yeah, so lots of editing, recording of my own. Started after finishing BioShock, I've started a playthrough of Don't Starve, a special game break Don't Starve, where things went horribly, horribly wrong, and then we're okay, and then the weird happened, which made it better, but I still think I'm in a bad place. But hopefully I won't starve. Death by any other means is acceptable. Just don't starve. One thing, though, is that there's suddenly so many things, and I'm having trouble keeping track of everything, and I'm not sure why. And it's disconcerting me and making me feel like I have way more on my plate than I actually do. Because I keep thinking, I still have to do this and this and this, and it's due by then, and it's due by then, and oh my god, it's so much work. And then I have to stop myself and go, no, wait, one project at a time, just do this, and then when that's done, do this, and then when that's done, do this, and everything will be fine. But between still working on the Word Ninja book, more game recording, more audio editing, and my own writing, which I'm working on not only Roommate, but a side project, a little one-off for Patreon, my brain keeps getting all up in a kerfluffle for no reason whatsoever, and it's making things more daunting than they should be. And that's annoying, and it needs to stop and go away.
Yeah, it's pretty rare that we're in full production mode for a couple weeks straight. So it kind of throws everything out of whack.
Normally I can handle it, especially since there's deadlines, so I know when everything's due by, and I can plan out. Do this day, do this day, I can get this done and this done, but for some reason my brain doesn't want to be organized this week. And it's just like, you have to do all of these things all at the same time, all at once. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have to do all those things all at the same time. I can do them one at a time, and I'll be fine.
Well, you can't do 20 things at once.
I mean, I only have 2 hands and no tentacles, so...
Oh, that sounds like a personal problem.
I know. But I don't know where to get tentacles. I haven't had that much radiation poisoning in Fallout yet.
And how has Calvin been since last week?
Let's see. Honestly, I don't feel like I've been as productive as I was last week or as productive as everyone else has been, but I have been taking care of a few things. Infinity's Light continues to move forward. I edited an introduction video for OTP manga last week, which actually yielded us 2 new series.
Nice.
Let's see. I found myself having to reinstall Windows once again,
What did
which
you do?
this was actually a good reason this time. I needed, I purchased a copy of Windows for the first time ever. So just to alleviate the shame of not purchasing Windows all this time, I really needed to. So I just went and installed that, and I backed up everything except for my playthrough, my progress of Monument Valley.
So you get to play with all the drunky crows again.
Yeah, yeah.
Fun with your totem friend again, though.
Yeah, Totem's cool. At least Totem's all right. Totem's got my back. If only he could do something about those crows, though, man. Monument Valley has been an incredibly relaxing game, with the exception of the crows.
Watching you play that game hurt my head.
Uh, because of all the puzzles or just the monotony.
Because of the breaking of physics. Because of the MC Escher level of shenanigans. When you'd rotate something and form a path that shouldn't be, I would just be like, what? Wait, what? No. How can... Okay, fine.
I've never seen so many Penrose triangles in my life, and it's fun but also disconcerting. Let's see what else. That's been pretty much it. Oh yeah, I've been catching up on YouTube stuff that I have been slacking on. So I was just basically playing catch up on a few things. So trying to bring everything up to speed pretty much. There's one more thing I need to do to bring everything current, and all will be right in the world.
Yay.
Also, I need to get up to speed with Monument Valley so I can record tonight.
And I need to edit Friday's episode of the visual novel so I can get that queued up. And I gotta watch bits and pieces of it so I remember what happened in that one episode versus all the others. Because I've done about 3 episodes worth for both visual novels now, and both of them have gone in weird directions. One more so than the other.
I need to play catch up on those series.
They're pretty entertaining so far. Alright. Events. The next one up is still Kineticon, and we're going full steam to get our stuff pulled together by then and have our website and YouTube channel all nice and shiny looking for it so that we can pimp stuff out while we're there. And then August is just crazy because AkaiCon and Inconceivable. And then like the week after that is Hartford Comic Con. So it's going to be an interesting next couple of months.
Yeah, August is going to be absolute madness for me. The week
We'll
before.
find a way to make it work.
Let's see, August I'll be in Tennessee, Massachusetts, and Virginia.
Not New York.
Possibly, I'm not sure. I have to check the schedule.
And the links to all those events are in the show notes, of course. So if you want to check out the information on those events and come say hello to us if you can, by all means, the info is there. And with that, I think it's going to be a relatively short show. So, as always, if we have entertained you in any way, shape, or form, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It has all sorts of entertaining content for you, from the Word Ninjas live show, where we're going to hit our 2-year anniversary next week with episode 97. And we have our ongoing Game Break series where we're all covering various games, some longer, some just one-offs or shorter series. We also have Muse Food on Saturdays, and I will tease that that is getting revamped for our 2-year anniversary as well. We're working on that to make it make it even shinier than it was before. So keep an eye out for that. And if you want to chat with us via social media, you can track us down on Twitter at FCWordNinja, and we also keep an eye on the hashtag WordNinjas. You can follow us on Tumblr, fcwordninja.tumblr.com, and Facebook, facebook.com/fullcoveragewriters. If you want to help fund all of our crazy shenanigans, we do have an Etsy shop, etsy.com/shop/fullcoveragewriters, where we have all sorts of shiny baubles, from bookmarks to buttons to booklets to little writer's block plushies and more. All those funds help keep this entire company alive and help us get to conventions and take on even more ridiculous projects. And we have a lot of them. So by all means, check out the shiny baubles, see if there's anything of interest that you might want a copy of for your very own. And if you want to talk to me for whatever reason, your best bet is still pretty much just Tumblr, fancypantswolf.tumblr.com. I hope to be on the Fairy Tale podcast next week as Makarov, Monday, 10 p.m. Eastern, their YouTube channel. We'll see, presuming I don't get completely beaten down by this plague of doom. And all the other various links are, of course, in the About Us page, if you want to try a different method, but no guarantees. And where can people find Will?
You can usually find me on my Tumblr page at darkhom.tumblr.com. It's DARKHOM. You can find information for My Roommate's a Stripper, as sparse as I updated, unfortunately, at myroommatesastripper.tumblr.com. And you can support me via Patreon at patreon.com/darkhom.
And how about Calvin?
Your best bet searching for me is Instagram at the moment, at CCWII, and on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/soundsbycalvin.
And with that, thank you for joining us for episode 96 of Word Ninjas Live. Come back next Wednesday for episode 97, our 2-year anniversary. That's going to be all sorts of fun. And no one's allowed to have the plague during it. It is forbidden.
Executive orders.
Yes. And even the executive has to follow those orders. Or else. But as always, thank you for joining us, and have a good night, everyone.